Hello and welcome to another edition of An English Guy Watching Wrestling. I'm an English guy, I'm Nick. Thank you so much for clicking on another video, I really do appreciate it. And this one, we're going to come in the 29th of April edition, 2021 of Impact Wrestling. So that being said, jump right into it. The opening matchup was between Jake Something and Chris Bay. Now, basically, as you may or may not know, after the win at Rebellion for Kenny Omega, we have a new number one chance to for a number one contender because basically because of the unprecedented nature of the match between Rich Swann and Kenny Omega, Rich Swann has no rematch clause in his contract. So basically, this means there's no one to face Kenny Omega for the Impact World Championship and on May 15th in the next pay-per-view. So that being said, Impact Wrestling decided to roll out the carpet, shall we say, and say, okay, we need a number one contender. So there was a series of qualifiers. It's called Under Siege qualifiers. Is the name of the pay-per-view. Under Siege is called is what the pay-per-view is going to be called. So I decided to have some Under Siege qualifiers. And the opening matchup was between Jake Something and the returning Chris Bay. Now Chris Bay hasn't been away from Impact for that long, but it's good to see him back. And this was a very good opener, to be fair, between two unique clash of styles. And excuse me, Jake Something, since breaking away from Cody Deaner, or Cody as he's now called, it's been very good, to be fair, and I've enjoyed what he's been doing. But him and Chris Bay just work. Excuse me. Him and Chris Bay worked very, very well together, and a very unique pairing opponents in terms of their styles clash. No pun intended. But this was a good opener. I enjoyed the work rate from Jake Something. He put some very unique offense in this match. Chris Bay is reliable as they come. You're going to get a good match from him every single time. But this was actually a very good opener. I enjoyed this, and a good way to start the tournament, shall we say, because it's going to be a matchup at Under Siege to determine the number one contender. So it's going to be interesting to see how it turns out. But this was a good opener, so good wrestling from both men. I enjoyed this one. And next match was Sam Beale versus W Morrison. Now, of course, W Morrison made his presence felt at Rebellion. And those who don't know who he is, that is Cass, Big Cass. So everyone probably knows by now who he is. And he really just dominated in this match. It was kind of a squash match to show W Morrissey is not here to play around, shall we say. Not part of, officially not part of Violent by Design as he teamed with them at Rebellion. But again, just here to show what he can do. Squash match. There you go. And this match was Kimberly versus the returning Taylor Wilde. Now, Taylor Wilde has been away from Impact Wrestling for some time, a former Knockouts champion, inaugural Knockouts Tag Team champion, against Kimberly. And Taylor Wilde, I've seen her before. It looks like she hasn't missed a step. It's great to see her back. And I liked her before. I mean, I remember watching some of her matches and she was good. She showed it here. Very much so. Against a very game Kimberly. And Kimberly is one of my favourite female wrestlers. I think she's really, really good. It has been for a long, long time. And this was actually quite a good match too. The Knockouts division this year has been very, very good to watch. Some really good matches, some really good wrestling all around. And this was a good one too. And some really good hard-hitting offense, counter wrestling, shall we say. But a very good win for Taylor Wilde. And I think it was the right call with a very unique Indian deathlock, I'll say that, to win the match. So I enjoyed this one. And it's good to see Taylor Wilde back. And hopefully she continues to be doing very well. And of course, I think she'll be the next person to face Deonna Purrazzo because Deonna has pretty much beaten everybody in the Knockouts division to this point, apart from Kimberly, obviously, because they're friends. But we'll just see what happens next. So, thumbs up to actually a very good Knockouts match. And next match was an Impact X Division Championship match. Ace Austin versus Josh Alexander, the new champion. And of course, I've said it before, this was personally my match of the night, I'll say, before we go any further. I've said it before and I'll say it again, the X Division in 2021 has just been fantastic. It's been great from start to finish. Every match has shown what X Division is all about. And this was no different. This was arguably a brilliant first defense for Josh Alexander versus a very game Ace Austin, who, no pun intended, is kind of the ace of the X Division because of his unique offense, the way he does things, the way he changes things up. His matches, he doesn't do the same thing twice a lot. Apart from his finishes, of course. But no, this was a very, very good match between two very, very good wrestlers. And Josh Alexander winning the title at Rebellion, I think was the right call because I don't think there's a harder working wrestler in all of Impact Wrestling than Josh Alexander. He's a workhorse. The other way to say it, he's a fantastic wrestler. And him in the X Division just works. Very neat to see that kind of wrestler in the X Division. But you know what? I'm all for it because the X Division has always been about no limits and shows it here. And Josh Alexander as a champion is a great example. But this was a fantastic X Division Championship match. And adding to the already growing legacy this year of the X Division, just being fantastic stuff to watch. And those who remember the old TNA days, X Division is what really made the company just be what it is. And in 2021, it's starting to be, I think, perhaps the shining light. And it's not to take it away from any other wrestlers, but I think the Impact, say, X Division is still the beating heart, shall we say, of Impact Wrestling. And Ace Austin and Josh Alexander kept it pumping really, really well. And thumbs up, definitely, to both men for a fantastic match. This was really good. And Josh Alexander retained and well deserved. So I think he's got a lot of good matches ahead of him as X Division champion. So there we go. Next match was another Under Siege qualifier between Brian Myers and Matt Cardona. So a rematch from Rebellion. And a much shorter match, to be fair. I wasn't expecting the match to go to be as short as it was. It wasn't very long at all. But Myers lost the match after Radio Silence hit by Matt Cardona to win the match. But a fun, entertaining match. I really enjoyed the match at Rebellion, the story they told. It was a very different kind of match here because they understood what was going on. They realised that the Matt Cardona's idea of the friendship of them being friends still has gone. So he was a bit more aggressive in this match, shall we say, and it was very well done. And whilst it wasn't the longest match, it was a fun match. I enjoyed this, and good to see Matt Cardona get the win because I think Brian Myers would have been a very good person to be in that match anyway, the Under Siege match for #1 contender. But definitely nothing against Matt Cardona because I really like Matt Cardona. I think this was a good match, shorter than a Rebellion match, but no less any worse. Different story was told here, but of course it was a story that was told right. So Matt Cardona winning, I think, was the right call after Brian Myers got the win at Rebellion. So thumbs up to both men for producing entertaining stuff, really good stuff. And then we also had the main event, another Under Siege qualifier, Sammy Callahan versus Eddie Edwards. And what else could be said about the most notorious and storied rivalry, perhaps ever in Impact? Everyone knows the story between these two men, and of course the infamous baseball bat incident from Sammy Callahan to Eddie Edwards' eye. And since that day, they've been feuding ever since. And whilst this wasn't the matchup I was half expecting, I expected to really go brutal at it. They didn't. It was more contained, but I think because it was a qualifier, and it was a no contest because Kenny Omega, I didn't say this, I will apologise. Kenny Omega, of course, is now an Impact World Heavyweight Champion, and at the beginning of the show, the entire roster, the male roster, said they want to know who was the #1 contender because obviously they didn't want Kenny Omega to win the belt because obviously Rich Swann has always been Impact through and through. And whilst Kenny Omega was not there at the beginning of the night, if he did not turn up on the broadcast, he would automatically forfeit both the Impact World title and the AEW title and be fired from both companies. So that's very unique. I would say not fired from Impact because he doesn't officially work there, but it's very interesting. It's very interesting to see that dynamic. And Kenny Omega turned up not too long before the match ended to take out both competitors of Sammy and Eddie Edwards because Sammy Callahan during the night spoke to Don Callis saying he's coming for Kenny. So of course Kenny took exception to that. Attacked Sammy Callahan, attacked Eddie Edwards, of course. Leave it as a no contest. And in the match, it was flipped. It was Fiend Juice coming out to aid Eddie Edwards, whilst the Good Brothers were there with Kenny Omega as you'd expect, and basically ending what was actually a very good episode of Impact this weekend. Interesting to see where it goes from here, the new dynamic and the new way of thinking. And obviously, all eyes are pointing forward to the next match between Kenny Omega and whether the #1 contender is going to be. Some very good wrestlers there already. So it'll be interesting to see what happens next. So that being said, thumbs up to everybody involved on Impact Wrestling for producing a good show. So there you go. And with that being said, that is it for this review. Thank you so much for watching. I will see everybody next time. But until next time, take care.